a new constitution. Can we do better than the great Constitution of the United States? The current United States Constitution has advanced society significantly, advanced liberty and rights significantly. The standard of living has grown faster than any time in world history because of the current U.S. Constitution. But we have slowly but surely moved away from our Constitution's limitations on government. Government, especially the federal government, has grown too much and the like. We can do better. So I'm taking the best parts of the U.S. Constitution, keeping that, and advancing it by giving greater restrictions on government growth, giving government power when it needs it, but also giving us, the citizens, a lot more rights and liberty. So let's go through it real quick. It is going to create competitive governance. If you haven't looked, if you don't know what that is, look. I will explain a little bit, but look at other videos throughout. It's going to be a lot less. I mean, it's a lot more limited government, but it's limited monopolized government. A lot more government. You could have a lot more government, but it'd be competitive government. Or you can go free, a lot of libertarian, and have a lot of all your governments are much smaller, much more limited, which means you have to do a lot more in the free enterprise system. If they're not in charge of your education, then you have to do the education on your own, and the like. So there's a lot of things like that. A lot more liberty, a lot more freedom. You have to. Right now, it only takes 50% of the legislative body to restrict the liberty. You might say, well, no, because we have the First Amendment in life. Well, if the person who puts the judicial department, judges and justices on the Supreme Court and other courts say that you don't get it, then that right's gone. Second Amendment rights gone. First Amendment rights are gone. It can be done with a 50% vote over time. So I increase that to 70%, and that will protect civil liberties significantly better. A lot more freedom. So my first section, I have a really nice preamble. Then my first section is citizenship, dealing with citizenship. That's super important. General laws, just every constitution needs some good general laws. Bylaws are really important, which means within every government, competitive government, you have to have really good bylaws, really good rules surrounding what that government can do. The difference between federal, state, and local, I have a section on that. It does that divide, and we go a lot more state, some more local, a lot less federal. Federal's taking care of foreign policy almost exclusively. There's a way to give some federal power to where it's really needed, FBI and the like. Maybe environmental, where you're crossing borders, state borders, but by far about 90% of federal government outside of the military is going to go back to the states, and some of that will go all the way to local. Original authority, I really say who has the top level of authority, where did that authority come from originally. Individual has the original authority to begin with, but then we separate it off to protect that original authority, to protect that individual. And so that is a very important section. Supermajority means it takes 70% to do anything monopolized. And there's ways to make sure certain things happen that maybe can't get that 70%. But so that's an important section. The parent sector board, they help separate all 30 sectors and make sure the whole system's going. That's going to be a very constitutionally minded board. They don't really have power, governing power. They have power over the governments to make sure they are staying within the government's parameters, government regulations, what they're allowed to do. So you can't have a government, a competitive government, go outside of what they're allowed to do. So that's where the power of the parent sector board comes in. They can never govern. They can only make sure the governing bodies are staying within what they're supposed to do. The CRA sector boards, that's the monopolized boards made up by competitive governments. And that's when things need to be at the monopolized level. 10, 20% at the most of governing will be done there. Competitive regulatory agencies, that's 90% of this whole thing. That's the most important part of this whole constitution is competitive regulatory agencies, and the other ones are there to support the competitive regulatory agencies, the CRAs, the competitive governance. The rating system, consisting of rating agencies, highly important within the competitive governance system, so people can have real knowledge from multiple perspectives. Taxation, most of your money is going to go to your competitive regulatory agency dealing with what they're providing you. So there's going to be definitely some mandates that you pay your competitive governance, the taxes, the fees for what you're getting, because they're doing services for you. They need to pay for that. So we have one dealing with taxes. Now we have massive debt in our country. We have a lot of assets. I deal with it in Section 12, how we get out of the massive debt we currently have. Pockets of freedom is a way for foreign policy and immigration law. You look at that separately. I got videos on that. States partial acceptance per sector is strictly so we can try to get this passed if certain legislators around the states do not want to go over certain aspects of governance, so they can stop with certain things. Let's say they don't want to do education or police, then we can accept that because we really want this Constitution to go through. It's a way to get this Constitution to go through without somebody without so many poison pills in there saying, well, I don't want to get rid of education from the state level monopoly right now, so let's not do this. No, we want it done, and slowly but surely I think people will start taking away that partial acceptance rejections on that. The separation of responsibilities and authorities into 30 sectors. Super important that we separate all government power into 30 sectors with different executive, legislative, and judicial branches per sector. I go through all that. Okay. 7 minutes on this video, so that's long enough, and there's a lot more to see on this, a lot more on my webpage, and I have like 60, 70 videos explaining every aspect of this and going over through all the 30 sectors, so I have a lot of videos dealing with all this. Until the next video.